Unlock your potential today at skillbakery.com.
In this one, we'll be implementing authentication for Supabase with OAuth and GitHub. To do this, the first thing that we need to do is under our developer applications, which you can see from GitHub settings, developer settings, or you can click your profile icon and then choose settings, and from there you'll be able to access the developer settings, which will take you to this screen. Under that you have the OAuth apps, and then click on new OAuth app. Over here we'll be creating the name of our service, so we'll say it as chat service. And next, this is going to be our localhost 3000 URL where our application is running right now. And here we have to provide the authorization callback URL. This we will get from the authentication Supabase. So here you can see we have GitHub as the option. And when I go over there, you can see this callback URL for OAuth. Just click on copy and paste it over here. After that, you can click on register application, and then you'll be getting this client ID. So copy that and put it over here in the application ID. And then the secret that we need to get is the secret that we get from generating authentication. So let's copy this secret and put it over here under secret, and then we can just enable this GitHub enabled. Click on save, and our application is now ready and we can integrate it in our code. Now here we'll open up our code, and the next thing that we need to do is to create a component. That component is going to be login component. So here inside our components directory, we will be creating our file login.tsx. So let's go ahead and create a file over here called login.tsx, and within this we will be making use of outlet context from Remix Run React and Supabase outlet context, which we'll get from root. This we will have to specify over here in our root.tsx, which we will do in a moment. And then we have our login method. So the login function basically makes use of the use outlet context, and here we are providing that context as Supabase outlet context. So here we are getting that Supabase, and using that we are then calling the sign in with auth, and the provider is set to GitHub. Then we have the handle logout method, which is just calling the sign out, and here we just have two buttons, login and logout. Now let's save this and head over to our root.tsx file. So in our root.tsx file, what we will be doing is we will be importing JSON, loader arguments, and meta function, and that we will be getting from a Remix Run node. Once we have done that, the next step is to make use of the create client and Supabase client that we will be getting from Supabase.js. So that we can include over here at line 10. And after that, we can also make use of the use stat. We can also make use of the user stat. And after that, we can also make use of user state from React and DB types from our database. So we created this DB types, if you remember so we created this DB types over here, and we already used it in our utils Supabase.ts. So you can see this importing the DB types, and in our app directory we are making use of this DB types as well. So here we have our database from DB types. Now next we will be providing a type for time Supabase client. So here I'll be providing that, and next we will have a function like Supabase outlet context, meta functions, and a loader function. So the Supabase outlet context is what we were making use of in our login.tsx file, and now if you see, we are not getting that error at all. Coming back to our root.tsx file, we now have the meta function, the loader function with the loader argument, and then we have this main function or function app. So here we will be first of all making use of the environment variable inside this before returning anything, and we will also have our Supabase defined. So you can see we have our Supabase over here, and we are using the user state, creating the create client database using the Supabase URL and Supabase anon key. And once we have done that, we will be passing that context over here in our outlet. So now we have our root updated, The next step is to go to our index.tsx file. Now in our index.tsx file, we will be incorporating this. So if I go up over here, you'll see we have Supabase, and now we also have to include one more Supabase. So what we'll do is here in our utils Supabase, this is going to be a server side. So we will be just adding server to this. That way I can just go ahead and say yes, this is going to update everywhere wherever we have Supabase. So now we have Supabase.server, and this way I can now go ahead and incorporate a couple of more items, like importing the login component, which is going to come from the components directory. So here we have our components and then login. So here we have our components login, and we already have our loaded method, which is loading the argument, and from there we are getting the database stuff. Finally, we'll be utilizing the login component before rendering anything. So here we can just put our login component, and now let's go ahead and run this. Saying npm run there, and this is the URL. So if you remember, the URL that we provided over here as homepage URL, we can go ahead and update this now, and then click on update application. So now our URL is proper. Let's open this up in browser. So there were some errors when I updated the code, and those were because some of the items were not included, like over here inside our import statement, used loaded data was not included. So that was one. And also, if you remember, we had introduced meta over there, and this is going to be exactly the same how we have it in our index.tsx file. So I just copied this content over here as well, and that's pretty much it. And after that, you can see that the application is up and running. So here we have our GitHub enabled, and now if I go to our chat service and click on login, you can see that we are able to communicate between these two, and I can click on authorize the skill bakery, and then it's going to redirect me back over here on this very page. So that's how we can implement authentication for Supabase with OAuth and GitHub. If you find the video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe.